Luke Johnson, covers the Saints for The Advocate, joins us now. Luke, how we doing?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me on.
It is our pleasure. Derek Carr, your thoughts on his future over the next 5 weeks?
Yeah, look, I think that everything that's come out so far about it has been generally positive, just within the idea of him potentially playing again this year. They are still technically, at least publicly, holding out hope that he will play, or that he could potentially play this weekend. I think that's very unlikely. He's got to clear the concussion protocol first, and then they got to see if his hand can even handle a little bit of football. Even though it's his non-throwing hand, you still have to do a lot as a quarterback with both of your hands. He's got to be able to hand off with his left hand. He's got to be able to take a snap. So, I mean, I don't think it's going to happen this week. I would really highly doubt it would happen the next week. But I think there's a decent chance that he could suit up for like the last 2 games of the season.
Saints have not announced a starter in his place. Is that by design or because you don't think they're quite certain?
Yes.
Okay.
That was the answer Darren Rizzi gave yesterday to like that exact question. Okay. You know, somebody just put it point blank, like, are you not naming a starter because you don't want the Commanders to know, or because you don't know? And he just said yes. So like I think they have an idea. I think they know who they want to roll with. But they're going to let it kind of play out this week, and maybe whoever's number 2 in the pecking order can change some minds. I mean, I'd be surprised, but yeah, I personally think it's going to be Jake Haener. They haven't really gotten to see what he can do in a starting role yet. It's been kind of a small sample size for him. The most snaps he's played in a game, I think, is 26. And most of the other games, it was like 7 snaps, 5 snaps, 1 pass attempt, 3 pass attempts. So give him a chance where they're game planning around him. He's not going into as bad a situation as Spencer Rattler did his 3 starts. He's got his full offensive line. He doesn't have Chris Olave or Rashid Shaheed or Taysom Hill, but I think MVS has played well. I think some of the other receivers have played well. The tight ends have been stepping up. So you should be able to get a good look at him if he's your guy. It still might be Spencer Rattler, but I think that's part of the calculus here. Like, let's see what we got in assuming Derek Carr is not playing.
Why do you think it was Spencer Rattler the first time?
I think it was Spencer because there's a lot of really tantalizing traits with him. And when you were kind of building a game plan around a quarterback and what he can do, I think there's a lot of stuff about Spencer Rattler that excites you. You can put a lot of stuff in the playbook because he's just a very gifted player. I just think, like I said, the other stuff around him was just really not good. And it's not saying that he was going to be a superstar if they had their full complement of offensive weapons or anything, but the guy got sacked 14 times in 3 games. He was thrown to a really depleted receiver core where really they were relying on young guys, rookies, undrafted rookie free agents to step into those big roles. Whereas now you have guys like Marquez Valdez-Scantling, you've got Dante Pettis, you got veteran receivers in those roles. I think it made sense in hindsight. And I think it would make sense to see what he could do in round 2. Now that he's had some chances to learn from it and get a little bit better situation around you. But the fact of the matter remains that they really don't exactly know what they have in Haener yet. So I think that's probably where they're going to roll.
Who do you think's
making the way of answering the question?
Yeah, who do you think's making that call ultimately?
That's a good question. I would think ultimately that call goes down to the coaching staff, right? And really that's Clint Kubiak and Darren Rizzi kind of making that call together. I would be surprised if it's kind of coming from up high, because if I were these guys, I don't know if any of them say I feel really comfortable about their status with the team next year, right? Even Mickey Loomis, who's been here forever. I don't know if you can say for sure that he's going to be back. So is Mickey really going to be we need that guy there? I mean, Darren Rizzi is obviously coaching for his head coaching career here. Like I think if he wants a guy who thinks he gives them the best chance to win, like he's got to roll with that guy. And I think that's more than likely, uninformed here, speculating. I think that's more than likely that who is making the call at who is under center.
How realistic do you think it is that Darren Rizzi becomes the next head coach of the Saints? I know you wrote an awesome story on him from last week up there in his roots in New Jersey, but how realistic do you find that at this point?
I mean, a lot less now that Carr's out.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, or assuming Carr's out. I think that's it's going to be a lot tougher for him to really go on a run and wow some people here. I think he's done some really nice things. Look, they're 3-1 since he took over, and they were coming off a 7-game losing streak. I think he's proved that he needs to be considered, right? Especially if you're talking about maybe blowing up some things next year, having a really young team. I think Rizzi has shown an ability to build a culture quickly. But it's going to be harder for him to make some statement wins with some really big teams coming up on the horizon. Commanders are in the playoff race. Packers are in the playoff race. And really make a statement if you don't have your starting quarterback and your backup isn't throwing the top two receivers, and you don't have your most dynamic offensive player in Taysom Hill, and your defense has been struggling. I just think it's going to be really, really hard for him to make a strong case over these last 4 weeks.
Were you surprised the Saints couldn't really run the ball in New York?
Very. And I went back and looked at, the Giants have a terrible run defense. I think they were ranked like 26 in the NFL going into that game. And then they were also playing without their best defensive player in Dexter Lawrence, who's like a monster in the run game. So you figured they could make something happen there. What I think the Giants did, which is smart, and I don't understand why more people haven't done this year, is they basically just copied the Eagles' game plan, right? They don't have Jalen Carter in the middle to wreck things, and their linebackers aren't as good, but they've got good players on the edge. They kind of played that like wide 5-man front a lot. And this is like something that Clint Kubiak's going to have to figure out is when teams take away your fastball, like you gotta be able to throw the changeup, and he's really just out there like trying to Aroldis Chapman his way through a game, just throwing heat all the time. And it didn't work. And when their run game doesn't work, their offense as a whole has not worked. So, that's if he is back next year, which is, obviously a question mark. That's an area where he's got to improve because if it's that easy to take away one really critical part of their offense and everything just kind of crumbles like a house of cards after that, and then you need to find a changeup off that.
How do you feel like the Saints handle Jayden Daniels? I've seen him play in person before. He's pretty good.
Yeah, he's all right, huh? And also feels like he was built in a lab to just eviscerate this Saints defense. Not really feeling good about their chances this weekend. I was talking with some other reporters. We were trying to set an over/under on his rushing yardage this week. I don't know if the limit exists, man. He could run for 120 yards this week, and I would just be completely unsurprised. Tall task for these guys. I think you could see this coming from a mile away. This is going to be a huge challenge. And, this is something they've struggled to do over the years is play these mobile quarterbacks. I mean, Drew Lock, of all people, ran for 60 yards on them last week.
Yeah.
It's just, it would be like the upset of the century if they hold him under 50 yards. Unless the Commanders just beat the brakes off him and Jayden doesn't have to run around.
We'll see. Enjoy some football in the Dome on Sunday. We'll talk next week. Thanks, Luke.
Sounds good, buddy. See ya.
He's by Luke Johnson on Twitter. You can follow him over there at The Advocate. Does a great job with the Saints. He's with us every single Thursday. Hey, it's Hunt. Thanks for watching Hunt on Saints. Before you leave, help us out a little bit. Hit that like button. Leave your comments in the section below. And hit that subscribe button so you get all our content right here from Hunt on Saints. We'll see you next time.